Welcome to today's webinar titled Effective Discipline for School-Aged Children ages 6 to 9. We are thrilled to have Sarah Postma with us today. Sarah studied psychology at Hope College and Western Michigan University. She holds a master's degree in counseling and is a certified traumatic brain injury specialist. She's been practicing for 15 years in the areas of substance abuse, mental illness, and the end-of-life care with all ages. She is currently a clinical trainer at Military One Source. Without further delay, I will turn things over to Sarah Postma.
Thanks, Dan, and hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today in our discussion of effective discipline for ages 6 to 9. Today I'm going to be presenting not only from a professional perspective, but also from the personal. I am the mother of 2 kiddos myself, ages 10 and 3, so while I've just gotten through this stage, I'm also preparing to go through it again, probably sooner than I think. Now, while this age group has its challenges, this stage also has so many rewards as they grow from toddlers and preschoolers to elementary ages. Their capacity to connect with you, bond with you, and play with you have grown in leaps and bounds, and they can really be a whole lot of fun. Although, as their maturity increases, so do the challenges, and I hope the discipline discussion here today addresses some of your concerns. So before we officially begin, I'd like to read our disclaimer. The appearance of hyperlinks does not constitute endorsement by the Department of Defense of this website or the information, products, or services contained therein. For other than authorized activities, such as military exchanges and morale, welfare, and recreation sites, the Department of Defense does not exercise any editorial control over the information you may find at these locations. Such links are provided consistent with the stated purpose of this Department of Defense-sponsored webinar. So before we get into discipline methods, we will be looking at the stages of development for this age group and spend some time looking at how they think and feel. This is vital to understand because it will color how we as adults need to approach children in order to meet them where they are developmentally. If you're trying to use techniques to shape behavior that is above the level the child can understand, you are likely doomed to failure, and the child will be left confused and feeling insecure. Often, this will lead to an increase in the very behaviors you're trying to minimize, so we need to first understand the mind of the child. Then we will continue the presentation and look at a few techniques to provide discipline, structure, and behavior shaping. We will look at rules and limits and define natural and logical consequences and look at special considerations during deployment. We will conclude today with a brief discussion on problem behaviors and when to maybe consider seeking professional help. Please don't see this as a failure if you find yourself here. Every child is different, and every child has something that they struggle with. Sometimes seeking professional help is a sign of amazing parenting because you're seeing your own limits and how much assistance you can offer, and you're doing everything you can to help your child be successful. This is amazing parenting, not a parental failure. So the word discipline really means to teach. It does not mean to punish or control. Discipline is how to shape behaviors that are unhealthy or unsafe, and we should think of it exactly that way. It's how to shape and mold behavior. It's not a punishment, so let's be clear on that. If you're clear, it will change how you approach discipline, and it will change how it's received by your child. It's not you versus them. It's a partnership between an experienced human and an unexperienced one. It eliminates the child's need to act out against you and the rules, and rather changes the reception of your correction to just that, a correction. It's not judgment. It's not you saying they're bad as a person. It's saying that was a bad choice. And just like all areas and stages of life, choices have consequences. Effective discipline not only teaches self-control, but enhances your child's self-esteem and teaches them respect for others. This is true for all ages, and the focus for this age group is changing from how to stay safe in the world and at home to how to interact with others respectfully, and to grow and learn from their new experiences and new levels of responsibility as they get older. When a child knows the limits and boundaries and sees their successes, their self-esteem and confidence grow. Children need caring adults to help them control their behavior. They're not little kids anymore, but they still need guidance and behavior shaping from adults that they trust and that they know care for them. Rules need to be put into place and enforced consistently, and we'll cover that more as we go through this presentation. Kids won't always understand the limits and why they're in place. Caregivers need to explain that it is to keep them safe and to grow and learn, not to control them or to be mean. Kids understand this. They might not like it, but they do understand. It is also the caregiver's job to allow the child to explore the world and their limits. I think too often in our culture we err on the side of protecting kids from everything, so that kids end up missing out on valuable lessons. Now, I'm not talking about sitting idly by while a child gets hurt, but rather I'm talking about limiting their exposure to negative things and consequences and taking over for the child the things that they can do for themselves. Allow children to explore, and don't be so quick to intervene if it's not an issue of safety. These are valuable lessons and create experiences they can pull from to make other lessons make sense. As the caregiver, you can pull on those past experiences and remind them of how those things felt. These are the building blocks of empathy. Without allowing kids to explore and have all sorts of different experiences, both positive and negative, we're creating dependent rather than independent kids. We are creating insecurity and low self-esteem rather than a sense of accomplishment, safety, and belief in themselves and their abilities. Effective discipline requires understanding where the child is developmentally. You need to tap into the tools that they have emotionally and mentally and not expect them to have the same tools at their disposal as you or other children do. So let's take a look at where they are developmentally. Children this age are just beginning to consider others' feelings and may have mastered seeing the emotions in others. They're still very self-centered and driven to get their needs met, whether that be through healthy or unhealthy means. They can see if someone is hurt or mad or happy, and they're beginning to see how others' emotional states can have an impact on them. They may be beginning to consider how the other person feels and to alter their approach or change their behavior to adapt. This is the beginning of empathy, but we're not quite there yet. An empathetic response may be to try to comfort the other person, but a more likely reaction for this age group is to see that the other person is upset, make a minor attempt to help, and then move on and move away. Here's an example. My daughter in first grade wanted to have some kids over for a party. There was a girl in her class that she didn't like, but my daughter didn't want to make the other girl upset by not inviting her. The girl was invited, but my daughter didn't interact with her much at the party. My daughter considered how the other girl would feel by not being invited, but remained self-centered and wanting to have fun with those she was more comfortable with. 6 to 9-year-olds are very sensitive to criticism. There's nothing that made my daughter more upset than when I was correcting her with a tone of disappointment. These kids are still growing their self-esteem and can be prone to seeing correction from adults as saying they're a bad person. Adults need to be sensitive to this and always use words and tone that reflect that the choice was bad, not the kid. Children pick up on this very easily, and if they feel the adult is saying they're bad, they will believe it, and they will behave that way. If children see that choices are bad and they're still good and valuable, their self-esteem grows and they are more accepting of the discipline. Children this age remain very impulsive. They're better than when they were toddlers, but they still have yet to develop the ability to delay pleasure. They want instant gratification. The area of the brain that enables you to stop and think logically doesn't develop until much later in childhood. The area of the brain that allows you to think consequentially, to fully grasp that your actions have consequences and predict all of those consequences before you act, That part of the brain doesn't even fully develop in girls until their late teens. And some studies have even shown that for boys, this doesn't fully develop until well into their 20s. So if logic, reason, and consequential thinking are the basis of your discipline or problem solving with your kids, you're likely doomed to failure. They just don't have that capacity to understand that from this angle yet. As adults, help the child slow down and think. When an impulse drives them to make a bad choice, help them connect the impulse to the emotion that created it and direct them to healthier options. So here's another example. If children are playing a board game together and one thinks the other cheated, they may topple the board over and end the game for everyone. Help the child think through alternative ways to manage that feeling and see other ways to confront the alleged cheating. Children think concretely. They don't understand abstract thoughts and don't have them themselves. They are focused on the physical world and based only in the facts that apply here and now. Babies will think an object has disappeared and no longer exists if you put something over it and they can't see it. Toddlers have advanced past this, and they know it still exists, but they won't be able to understand a metaphor or other abstract ideas. Children this age still struggle in this area. You need to be literal and specific in your communication. Another aspect of learning, and really a kid's job at this stage, is to test limits. They are very interested in rules and want to follow them most of the time. Rules create a predictable environment and predictable consequences, and this predictability is comforting to children this age. While testing limits is not always fun for us adults, it is an important and vital part of the learning process for kids. Testing limits also means how they interact with other children and adults. Can I hit my sister? Does no really mean no, or can I yell and scream and get it that way? Not only does testing limits teach children social norms and social skills, but it also teaches them how to treat others. It teaches them your family's values and morals. It teaches them how to be safe in the world and at home. It teaches them what the adult's buttons are and how far and how frequent to push them. And this is the not-so-fun part of parenting, but it is a vital part of the learning process. As any parent knows, kids this age are experts at pushing your buttons. They're not doing it to be mean or vindictive. They don't have the intellectual functioning yet to think that way. They're just trying to get their needs met and get things that they find pleasurable. So it's your job as the adult not to personalize limit testing and button pushing, but instead to understand why it's happening and help meet the need and create pleasurable things and experiences that are healthy for them rather than hurtful or harmful. Children really do want discipline. Remember, it's not punishment, but behavior shaping. Kids want to please adults and those in authority, and they want to be seen as treasured and valuable. When they know the rules and limits, they really do want to abide by them. Their impulses and pleasure-seeking can sometimes get in the way of this, but they really do want to please you. When kids know the rules, they can predict the consequences, and this, as I stated earlier, creates a sense of safety and comfort for the child. Kids this age thrive on routine and predictability. Discipline should be kind but firm. Remember, kids this age are very sensitive to criticism, so choose your words and tone carefully. Address the behavior or choice, not the child as a person. My daughter loved when I gave her reasons for my corrections. It gave her context and allowed her to buy into what I was correcting and why. When she didn't understand the why, even if she didn't agree, she was more likely to make the change that I was looking for. I've never agreed with the thought that adults should correct behavior and then, if asked why, respond with, "because I said so." Give kids a reason they can understand and show them how it will benefit them in the future. Here's another example. My daughter struggled at bedtime. She would go down easy, but then she would get out of bed over and over again. When I reminded her of how tired she was the next day and how often she made impulsive decisions and got disciplined, she recalled it. I connected those behaviors and consequences to being tired and told her our brains don't work as well when it's not as rested as we need it to be. We talked about the importance of getting good sleep and giving our brains and bodies not only time to relax, but time to grow big and strong. This made sense to her, and the behavior of repeatedly getting out of bed stopped. Consistency is crucial, not only for the predictability for the child, but also to have any impact on the behavior you're trying to shape. Family rules, limits, and the consistency of enforcing these provide children with a sense of stability on which they thrive and grow. If you are not consistent, it leaves the child confused about what's expected, and their behavior and their choices will show this. No from you should always mean no. Otherwise, you're teaching them to test you and to escalate their behavior until a no turns to a yes. If that happens, you've reinforced to the child that that's how you get your way, and you've just really created a monster. They will throw a tantrum or yell or scream or hit every time you say no because that's what you've taught them. If you keep that up, someday you'll have a teenager throwing tantrums, and I hope that puts an image in your mind that will make you want to sit up and pay attention on how to prevent that. Remain calm and avoid criticism. I think we've covered that and the reasons why. But remember that you will have a harder time not having a tone of criticism if you are exacerbated or irate yourself. Take a minute to calm yourself down before you address the behavior. Take a breath, count to 10, walk away and collect yourself, whatever you need to do. Waiting a few minutes to get calm has less of an impact on the child than coming at them from a place of anger or frustration. Catch your child being good and give them lots of praise. Give positive attention. When you see positive choices being made, give verbal and physical praise for that. Give them a hug or a high five. Kiss their cheek and tell them they're awesome. If a child struggled with something, was disciplined, and you see them make the more appropriate choice the next time, praise them for it. Show them you recognize their progress and their effort, and you valued the effort to change. Give immediate and positive, specific praise. Kids want to know exactly what they did right. The more positive attention you give for positive behavior, the more likely the child will do positive things to get that attention. Additionally, it makes them feel good about themselves. They see themselves as worthwhile and valued, and it grows their self-esteem. Be a good role model. Kids this age are very interested in rules and what's quote-unquote fair. If they see you getting away with something and they can't, it can be confusing. Role model positive coping skills for them when you're feeling a certain way. If you're upset and you slam a door out of frustration, they are watching you and they will slam the door too. If you say to them, "Mommy's feeling frustrated, so I'm going to take a deep breath, count to 10, and put my head down for a minute before I continue," then that's what they'll try to do. Now, nobody's perfect, and we all vent inappropriately sometimes, but the choices you make do have a direct influence on the choices that your child will make in the future and in how they cope and express themselves. If you make a mistake, it's okay. You're likely to make a lot of them. But use those mistakes to role model to your kiddos what they should do and what would be a better choice. I think it's great for kids to see their parents do this and for parents to apologize to children if it's appropriate. It helps children see that everybody makes mistakes, nobody's perfect, and no mistake is the end of the world. You can recognize the mistake, make a better choice the next time. It's a wonderful role modeling opportunity, and it forms solid connections and respect between children and adults. So what rules and limits will you set to create this sense of stability? First, rules need to be age appropriate. Rules for a 6-year-old will not be the same as a rule for a 9-year-old. As they mature, so should your rules and limits. As they mature, you should expect more from them, and they should have different responsibilities and greater consequences. I also want to highlight the importance of having your child participate in setting the rules and consequences. There are many benefits to having this family discussion and writing out the rules and the consequences. By doing this together, the child feels some sense of control and feels valued for their input. This will also lead to further buy-in from the child to the rules and the parents. When disciplining your child in the future, you can pull on that experience and remind the child that this was the consequence they agreed to. The "it's not fair" response can be responded to you with, "Remember, we talked about this and you agreed, so I'm sorry you're upset, but this is what you decided would happen if you made that choice." Another hidden benefit is that children can sometimes come up with consequences that are effective that the parent wouldn't have otherwise ever thought of. My daughter loved a certain stuffed animal. When we were talking about consequences, she came up with the idea that if a first level of a consequence didn't work, that I could take her stuffed animal away for a designated amount of time as a second level of consequence. She loved that animal so much that just the thought of losing it for a while was a deterrent to making the same bad choice more than once. Thankfully, we only had to take it away once, and you better believe that lesson stuck. By using my daughter's idea for a consequence, we were able to tap into that hidden motivation. It also increased her self-esteem to have her parents like and employ her idea. It made her feel good to have some control and made her feel valued for her ideas. Post the family rules and limits in a place the kids can see them. Have the consequences listed as well. When you have to discipline your child, remind them that the choice to break the rules is the same thing as choosing the associated consequence. So what do you do when you're setting a consequence after a bad choice? First, the child needs to be calm enough to hear and process what you're saying to them. Wait until they're calm and offer comfort. After they're calm, then you can proceed with the correction. Don't talk down to them and avoid being judgmental or critical. Use "I want" statements like, "I want you to" fill in the blank and include a reason why. Address the behavior and be specific and matter-of-fact, using a calm tone and calm language. Keep it brief and simple. Tell them what you've observed and what choice would have been better in that situation. Help them see that the choice was bad, but they are not bad. Use small, short sentences and check for their understanding. Have them repeat what they heard you say and correct any misunderstandings. If you're using techniques like timeout, it is only after doing all of this that you would send them to the timeout. Make it a quiet area away from you and away from making eye contact. Tell them how long they will be there, and a good rule of thumb is 1 minute for every year that they are old. After the timeout is over, ask them if they know why you gave them a timeout, and have them tell you in their own words. Then ask them what they should do next time to make a better choice. Have them tell you in their own words and add to it or correct as you need to. Then have them apologize to you. Give them a hug and tell them you love them and you're proud of them for listening. Tell them that you will help them make the better choice in the future and they can come to you if they need help. Give choices when you're dealing with children in discipline and explain to them why you're doing what you're doing. When kids know there's a reason why something is happening, even if they don't agree with it, they are more receptive to the correction. Choices and knowing why gives them a sense of control when they're feeling so out of control. It also helps foster the idea that this is a partnership rather than punisher versus punishee. I made a special point with my daughters to always give them a reason they could understand, and this helped my oldest, and it's helping my youngest, to grow the ability to self-regulate and self-correct because they know the reason why a behavior is unacceptable. They don't need me to tell them because they know. Set consequences that can be completed quickly and then give the child a chance to try again. Timeouts can be great for this very reason. After the timeout is over, take the child back to the situation and have them apply the lesson and do things differently this time. When they do, give them lots of praise and attention for making the better choice. This will reinforce the choice and increase the likelihood that they will do it better the next time. Establish trust. Your child needs to trust that you are correcting their behavior out of love and respect, and not in an effort to help them grow and learn, not as a way to dominate or to control them. It's not you versus them, but again, a partnership. Whenever possible, let the natural and logical consequences be the teacher in addition to you. So let's take a minute to look at what we mean by this. Natural consequences are the natural result of the behavior and are not imposed by a parent. So here's an example. If your child is mean or hurtful to another child, and now that other child won't play with you, that's a natural consequence. Help your child make the connection as to why the other child won't play with them, and help them problem solve. Maybe suggest that they apologize and tell that child they won't be mean to them and offer to play. If the apology isn't accepted, let them play alone for a while to reinforce that lesson. This allows the child to own the problem and face the consequences and teaches self-discipline. I think too many adults are going overboard in protecting kids from these logical consequences. We shouldn't protect them from that. That's how the world works, and they'll be living in this world for the rest of their lives, so let's not cripple their ability to function in it. If they sneak into the cupboard and eat pounds of candy and have a tummy ache, that's a natural consequence for that choice. Let them be a little uncomfortable and remind them of the experience the next time they want seconds and thirds of the Skittles. If a child makes a mess, they should be the ones to clean it up. If they won't clean it up, then those toys get put away for a while and the child can't play with them. As adults, we all experience logical and natural consequences, and they are sometimes our best teachers and shapers of our behavior. The same thing goes for young children, so don't shield them from this. When not actively disciplining, give positive attention, direction, interactions, and feedback. I've mentioned this already, but it's important enough to reiterate. When you see positive choices being made, give verbal and physical praise for that. Give them a hug or that high five. Tell them that they're great and they did a great job today. If a child struggled with something, was disciplined, and you see them make the more appropriate choice the next time, praise them for it. They want to please you. Show them that you recognize their progress and their effort and you valued the change. Give immediate and specific praise. Excuse me. Excuse me, I had a cough attack. So kids want to know exactly what they did right. The more positive attention you give for positive behavior, the more likely your child would do positive things to get that attention. And it makes them feel good about themselves. They see themselves as worthwhile and valued human beings, and their self-esteem once again begins to grow. Be intentional and positive in your communication, even when things are going well at home. Tell them how often and how proud you are and point out specific things that you've noticed that they do well. My daughter would just beam whenever I complimented her, and there's something to be said for doing this publicly as well. When you praise your children in front of other parents and adults, it raises the level of the compliment in the child's mind. Your praise doesn't have to revolve around past discipline either. Point out your child's strengths and natural abilities to make good choices. Do things together and form those bonds of trust and respect. Have fun and play together. The relationship that you create with your child will have a lasting impact as you go through these other tough stages, like the teen years, and will last on into adulthood. So set the stage now for how you want to interact with your future teen and your future adult child. In addition to the technique of timeout that we've already discussed, another powerful tool for parents and caregivers is to simply ignore the behavior. This can be used when the child is not in danger of being hurt or hurting others, but is just generally being disruptive or not following direction. The basic steps of this include moving away from the child, turning your back, and avoiding eye contact. Do not speak to the child and ignore any protests or excuses, because there will be a lot of them. Kids love attention, and if the only time they get attention is when they're acting out, they will keep acting out to hold your attention. If it's safe to do so, ignore it. When my kids would throw the occasional tantrum over something like not putting on their pajamas, I'd tell them I was sorry they were so upset, and they could throw a fit if they wanted to, but we would still be getting PJs on. Then I'd turn my head or lay down on the floor and not pay any attention to their fit. A minute or two would go by, and they'd stop the tantrum and get their PJs on. No attention, no reason to act out. They may try the same behavior again, but if you're consistent in ignoring it, they won't continue. Problem solved. I'd like to take a moment to address aggressive behaviors in kids this age. First, we need to keep in mind that all children at this age are naturally self-centered. Kids in this stage are also natural pleasure seekers. Their primary objective is to get what they want, when they want it, and how they want it. If it feels good, it must be good. It's all about me, and it's all about what feels good. Now, I come from the system of thought that kids are not born aggressive. They are not naturally mean-spirited or spiteful. They act aggressively in order to get their self-centered, pleasure-seeking needs met. Kids who stay aggressive have learned through time and experience that this is the best or most effective way to get their needs met. Kids who decrease their aggression are the ones who have learned the opposite. That makes the discipline techniques that we're discussing here that much more important. If we, as adults, come at aggressive behavior with the understanding that the child is self-centered and trying to seek pleasure, it helps us understand the motivation to be aggressive and should color how we approach it. If a child hits another child to get something, calmly intervene and suggest an alternate approach to getting their needs met. Maybe your focus is on the need to share and how much more fun it is to play together. Maybe you redirect toward another activity. If the child hits again, you say stop and tell them why the choice is a poor one. Take them to a quiet area and debrief with them. Help them see why they were getting upset and help them form a plan of what to do next time without hitting. Pull the victim over and help that child tell the aggressor that they don't like being hit and it hurt. Help the aggressor say they're sorry and won't hit again. Then give the aggressive child lots of support, encouragement, and a hug, and tell them you're proud of the apology and are here next time if they're getting upset. If they get upset again and don't hit, please be sure to catch them making the better choice and give lots of praise and positive attention. The more positive attention you give to kids, the more likely they are to seek positive attention by making positive choices. Be sure to address the aggressive behavior immediately and be firm in the consequences. Children should be told that their specific behavior and choice is unacceptable. There is no negotiation into what is acceptable in this kind of situation. Acting aggressively is not the solution and will not be tolerated. The adult needs to give this direction firmly, but it doesn't have to feel or sound harsh. Caregivers and parents need to work together in partnership to help children this age grow and learn. It can be very confusing for kids this age to navigate different rules and routines at home versus at school or in a daycare. Parents should ask about rules and routines and try to mirror those at home as best as they can. Parents and caregivers should share discipline issues, share behavioral observations and goals, and work together to meet those goals. When techniques work, share that with all the parties involved. When behaviors change, celebrate that together. Everyone has a role to play, and everyone is there because they truly care about the child and want to see them succeed. While it's best to work together as a team, there is a difference. A caregiver's responsibility is to focus on the behavior and let the parents know what they've observed. It is up to the parent to decide when and if to seek additional help. If behaviors are dangerous or escalating, keep the lines of communication open and be specific and based in fact when discussing this with parents. Parents understand that caregivers have a duty to protect many other children and have more limits on the consequences and the ability to change routines and structures. Caregivers are sometimes more objective than parents are, and rightly so. Caregivers are not seeing the child through parental eyes, but they do care about them and their success. If they didn't, they wouldn't be working with children in the first place. Addressing children's behavior and discipline is best done as a team, with the parent ultimately responsible for seeing any plan through. Children of deployed parents have a lot on their minds. Routines and roles in the family have changed, and until these are reestablished, the child will feel a little bit like a fish out of water and may be fairly insecure. They've grown past the younger child thinking and may have some real and concrete fears about the safety of their parent who is deploying. Some children will even revert to younger-like behaviors, and you may see a return of the dreaded separation anxiety or even some attachment issues. Since they are still developing coping skills for their emotions, they may also be emotionally all over the place. Children will often act out in situations like this, and to different degrees and in different ways. There may be more need to discipline during this stage as your child adjusts to the new reality of their parent being gone. If your family is dealing with a deployment and your child is acting out in ways that you feel are extreme, or there's little that brings comfort to your child, please seek professional help. If that's not the case, know that the acting out is temporary and it will get better. Work hard to provide comfort and normalize their feelings. Let children know that you miss their parent too, but they will come back and they are loved. Stick to the household routine and rules. This predictability is of great comfort to little ones, and they not only depend on it, but they do thrive on it. Help children express themselves and their emotions in a healthy and creative ways. Anxiety can be expressed and relieved by physical activity. Set up an obstacle course in the living room or the yard, or just have a race around the block. Exerting some physical energy can help lower that anxiety. Transitional objects that remind a child of the deployed parent can be of great comfort as well, and the kids at this age are not too old for them. Military OneSource has a whole host of resources, both locally and nationally, that can provide various objects to you and your children. Work diligently and intentionally on preparing your child for the deployment. Let them know that they may have more struggles to control their mood and they may make more poor choices, but let them know that you're here for them and you will be there to support them. Remember, preparing for this is emotional, mental, and physical. Ease into these new routines and roles before the parent deploys, if that's possible. All kids struggle at one point or another, and in one way or another. Sometimes parents and kids need a little extra support or guidance, and often that can come from professional help. Please seek out professional help if the child's behavior is dangerous or doesn't improve after consistently and effectively implementing discipline methods. The key here really is consistency. Seek help if the child seems sad or withdrawn more than what you believe is appropriate to the situation, or if they seem sad or withdrawn most of the time. Seek help if the same is true with anger or aggression. If you notice that other children are avoiding your child and they don't want to play with them, investigate why by asking other parents or caregivers. You need to see this as a sign that your child's behaviors are serious and that they may need help. Be open to the feedback from others and don't discount it. Kids are not naturally vindictive at this age, and their choice not to play with your child is based on fact and experience, as difficult as that may be to hear. Another time to stop and seek professional help is if you, as the caregiver or the parent, are feeling like you may be at risk for hurting a child. If your temper is escalating, or you are punishing rather than shaping behavior, or if you just have nothing left to give and you find yourself neglecting your children, please seek help. It is readily available and is not a sign of weakness or failure. It is a sign of strength to recognize your limits and seek help for the benefit of yourself and your children. If you do need help, you can go to the military and family life counselors on base, or feel free to call Military OneSource. Help is available 24/7 for Military OneSource, and a master's level clinician will confidentially walk you through the process of getting help and resources. Taking care of yourself, whether you're a parent or a caregiver, is so important. Kids this age are a challenge and take great energy, consistency, and constant vigilance to keep them safe and healthy. Take time to care for yourself so you have the reserves needed to do this job well. Give yourself some slack and give yourself some credit. This is hard. If you make a mistake, it's okay. You're likely to make a lot of them. Use those mistakes to role model to your kids what you should do and what you should have done to make a better choice. I've said this before, but I think it's great for kids to see their parents do this and for parents to apologize if it's appropriate. It helps children see that everybody makes mistakes and no mistake is the end of the world. It's a wonderful role modeling opportunity and forms those solid connections and respect between children and adults, and that can last all the way through adulthood. I often see parents this age, myself included, trying to be super mom or super dad, and it's just not possible. Give yourself credit for what's gone well. Let yourself off the hook from the expectation that you can do it all and do it all perfectly. Seek support from other parents and peers, those who are in the trenches just like you, and those who have lived through it. Take time for yourself and lift yourself up. If you run yourself down and have little emotional or physical energy to devote to your kids, it will show, and it could be part of what ultimately increases the very behavior that is draining you in the first place. It's a tough job, and it is a tough stage, but you will get through it. So some key takeaways I hope you have from this presentation is the shift of thinking of discipline as a way to punish kids and changing it to that of shaping behavior. Family rules, limits, and the consistency of enforcing these provide children with a sense of stability on which they thrive and grow. If you've satisfied a child's need for independence and control in healthy ways, they are less likely to challenge you for those things in unhealthy ways. If your discipline and behavior shaping is effective and comes from a foundation of love, it teaches your children self-control. Some of the best ways to shape behavior is to let your children experience the natural and logical consequences of their behavior. Shielding them from this takes away from their ability to learn and self-regulate and fosters an unhealthy dependence on you. Effective discipline requires good communication. Communication between you and your child, as well as any caregivers they may have. If you find yourself ineffective in your discipline, if you're feeling out of control or unsafe yourself, please seek help. If your child's behavior is overly aggressive or dangerous, and you feel you've done all you can do to address it, but it's still an issue, please seek help. It is available. If you are in a deployment cycle, do your best to prepare you and your children early on, and know that you will face challenges ahead. Seek out other parents who have gone through a deployment and get their support, encouragement, and talk to them about things they did to get through. Deployment is a stage, and all stages will come to an end, even if the result is a new normal. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you found this information helpful, and I believe we have some time for some questions if you would like to pose any.
Thank you, Sarah. We do have a couple of questions. The first question reads, when does timeouts stop working? I have a 9-year-old, and it just doesn't seem to work as well as it did when she was younger.
Sure, that's a good question. The answer is it will be different for every kid. You know your kids, and you know what motivates them and what is going to be an effective tool for you to use. For my older daughter, timeouts really stopped working around age 7. She was very sensitive to, as she would put it, being treated like a baby. And she had other things that she valued in her life and in her daily experience and routine that she valued a lot more. She was able to listen to me when I talked to her, and then she would maybe get a different consequence than a timeout. So I started really doing that around age 7 because I saw that the timeouts weren't really doing anything for her. It wasn't effective. So for your kids, it'll be different. If you have more than one child, timeouts might work for one up through age 9, and for the other, you might stop around age 6. So you know your kids best. If timeout's not being effective, then move on to some different tools. As kids get older, as I mentioned, they do value different things. You could maybe give them an additional chore as a consequence, or not allow them to watch their favorite TV show, or maybe they can't go on that play date with their best friend. Those may be more effective tools for discipline as they get older and timeouts stop working. Great,
thank you. Next question is, how do I stay motivated to be consistent in my discipline? I find that it's just sometimes easier to let them get away with the small stuff when I'm busy.
I can completely understand that. Life does get busy. You've got kids and work and chores and the house and the dishes and the laundry, and everything just piles up on top of you. I would recommend that you just mentally take note of the potential consequence for you if you don't address the small things. The old adage of give them an inch and they'll take a mile is definitely true for kids. If you are not being fully consistent, even in the small things, you're teaching them that they can get away with things and that they need to wait until you're really busy for them to get away with stuff. I would really encourage you to take a minute to think to yourself, do I take 2 minutes to address this right now, or do I want to spend 30 minutes addressing it next week? Because the behaviors will escalate. And then project yourself even further into the future and think, do I want to take 2 minutes now? Or if I don't, I'm going to be addressing this for 30 minutes next week. And 5 years from now, when they're a teenager and maybe even bigger than me, it's going to be days. So I would use that as your motivation. You don't want to set yourself up for failure in the future. because the teen years are coming, and you want to set the stage for that consistency and for no meaning no. And if you take just 2 minutes to address it when they're ages 6 to 9, you will avoid huge blowout fights and arguments when they're a teenager.
Thanks, Sarah. No other questions have come in, so I would like to take this time to thank you for sharing your invaluable experience and expertise. I would also like to thank our attendees for participating in today's webinar. If you find yourself having questions after the webinar is over, please email moswebinars@militaryOneSource.com, and I'll get the questions over to our presenter for an answer. This concludes today's webinar on effective discipline for school-age children ages 6 to 9. Thank you all for attending, and have a great day.